It was a constant battle dealing with the lack of results, and there's a very strong tendency to place all of that blame on yourself. That would be a point in my life where I began to deal with serious depression and anxiety. And yeah, it felt like I was fighting an impossible fight.
As a teenager, Robert Adams left his mainline church to join the Evangelical Church.
But as a gay man or boy growing up in a small town, I experienced a lot of bullying and ridicule leading up to my teenage years. Then early in my teen years, I was exposed to a number of evangelical and fundamentalist churches and was evangelized by them. It seemed like extreme acceptance and approval and a lot of affirmation for myself as a young person.
His fundamentalist church had some rigid views and practices.
They focused a lot on how the rest of the world was deceived and the rest of the world was mistaken, and even suppressing a lot of these things that were perhaps more supernatural in nature. And so it became part of the message that we were indoctrinated with, was that supernatural things happened and that we could be impacted by them and even threatened by them, and that we needed to take an active stance in fighting them through spiritual warfare.
Robert's relationship with his family was impacted by his participation in the fundamentalist church.
My relationship with my parents, I'd say, was pretty normal. I mean, we had typical adolescent conflicts throughout things. Where my relationship with my family really did suffer was after I got involved with fundamentalist churches and was feeling like they were kind of isolating me from my family because my family was considered, in their eyes, to not be saved and not be Christian. And I don't think they realized the extent to which my mind was being indoctrinated during that time. And certainly they weren't supposed to know.
He soon learned that the church position on sexuality didn't align with his own nascent feelings.
But unfortunately, as my sexuality began to burgeon, there became a great conflict between myself and the faith that I had found. There are a lot of strings attached to the love and acceptance that a lot of fundamentalist churches offer.
As a young gay man coming to terms with his sexual orientation, Robert decided he must change to fit in and receive love and acceptance. He started an arduous, painful 15-year journey of denying his authentic self. This included sessions at the ex-gay ministry New Directions.
I certainly felt that this was what was the right thing for me at the time, because that's what I was taught that I needed to do to be acceptable to God and to his community. Probably the best way of saying it would be desperation, because I think we were willing to suffer anything to become straight, to become what we needed to be acceptable.
Robert enrolled in a Bible college that was unaccepting of his sexual orientation.
That was the point where I became more connected with more formal conversion practices. My sexuality became a known factor on campus, and I was presented with the options of going through conversion therapy or being expelled from a degree program that I had already spent a lot of money and time investing myself in.
To change his sexuality, Robert sometimes went to a week-long ex-gay conversion retreat in Ontario.
You were encouraged to fast every day until supper time. There was a lot of prayer. There was a lot of pseudo-psychology. There were people there dealing with different issues, from addictions to sexuality to anger. But at the end of the week, the common denominator was that the leader deemed that we were all experiencing demonic oppression, and we went through a process of deliverance and prayer, and with a lot of shaking of people and praying, and that was the location where I was told to vomit up this demonic spirit.
Robert finally had enough and decided to come out.
I think it just got to the point where it had failed so completely in changing me that I just knew there had to be another way, and I began to slowly and cautiously explore options outside of the religion that I had been involved with, and gradually came to the conclusion that if God is love, then there was no way that I would be condemned for living a life that was true to the way I was created.
Realizing the damage and pain that trying to change had caused in his own life, Robert testified on key legislation to ban conversion practices in Canada.
I was very excited to be able to present a statement to our city council in Kitchener, where I live, in support of a resolution that they passed banning conversion practices in the region. Yes, it was really gratifying for my own city to pass this resolution, and then within just a few weeks to see the bill pass through the Canadian legislature so quickly. It really does affirm what many of us have known for a long time. It's just how destructive these practices are. And hopefully this is just the first step in educating people and eradicating these destructive processes in our country. Just having the opportunity to contribute to legal changes and education of other people in the last little while has really given me a sense of empowerment.
Robert has advice for young people and parents thinking of trying an ex-gay conversion program.
I would tell anybody who is considering conversion practices to not go there. Parents that are concerned about their children, you are much better served in accepting and loving your children as they are and working through whatever struggles that you have with that in yourself, because there's really nothing more damaging to a child, I think, than being told that they are not good enough.
Robert's story ends with a holiday message of love and acceptance.
The most important thing to me is just that we begin to move as a society towards a community where everybody can feel accepted and affirmed for who they are. And that doesn't involve just people that are dealing with sexual or gender issues, but it goes across races and other factors that make us human as well.